Hi, this is Dave Bartosiewicz with Have You Experienced Jesus? Listen, I'm here to talk to you about something. You know, Mormonism, they have a tendency to separate, right? They have a tendency to separate those who are not of their faith. I mean, I'm here in Utah, I hear it all the time, especially here where I'm 96% Mormon, and I've heard it through many, many Christians who've talked to me, and they go, why do they not allow my children to play with them, right? Where does this come from? You know, why does this happen? And I'm sorry to say, a lot of Mormons are very orthodox in what happens, and they're thinking that no one is really righteous enough to play with their kids, and they feel like, oh gosh, they're not Mormons, it could cause some problems. You know, maybe they could be drinking, they could be involved in drugs, or they have immorals, or the daughters might be wearing some immodest things, and so what happens? It could catch on to their kids, and they don't want this. They don't want this effect that maybe could cause problems down the road, okay? So one of the things you need to understand is this. Mormonism has a tendency to do this, okay? It really does. But, you know, it separates in so many ways. I don't understand why they separate. I mean, God separated the veil. He came out of the veil. He no longer is separate. He comes into all believers, and all believers who really love him have God in them. And Mormons should be okay with all that, but they aren't, okay? So what you need to understand is I am now an ordained minister, and I had the chance, I want to share a story with you, and this sort of affects me, and it hurt me quite a bit. My first wedding that I actually performed was with a Mormon and also a Catholic, a Mormon girl and a Catholic guy who wanted to get married, and so I married them, and I went through an interview process with them, and they were believers of Jesus. They believed in the blood of Jesus, that his blood saved them, and you know, they're trying to work together. But I got to tell you, when I was talking to them, there was a lot of sadness, because I asked the bride, I said, hey, are your parents coming? And she actually looked at me in disdain and hurt and pain, and she said, no, they're not coming. I said, why? You know, she says, well, there's just issues with that, you know. Her two other sisters got married in the temple, and so her parents went to her sister's marriage, but they were Orthodox, they are Orthodox Mormons, and they actually, sadly, said to their daughter, who I was marrying, that we're not going to come. Can you imagine that? I've done shows about this before, about, you know, Mormons who separate from non-Mormon families, you know, who want to go to maybe the Mormons, non-Mormons wanting to go to the Mormons' weddings, and they weren't allowed in the temple. Now you have Mormons who won't go and accept a Mormon and a Catholic marriage together. Now this is really hard, because I called her just a couple days before, and I felt bad when I was interviewing. I said, this is not right. You know, a father should walk their daughter down the aisle, right? That should be a priority. That should be something they always wanted to do in their lives. But unfortunately, this did not take place. I called her 2 days before the wedding, and I said, please, can I talk to your parents? Can I talk to your father about this? And she adamantly said, no, they won't go. I met her at the day of the wedding an hour before, and I said, are your parents going to come? Did they change their mind? And her father contacted her that morning and said, I just want to make sure you understand this. We are not coming. We are not going to go to your wedding. Can you imagine the effect that's going to have on this couple when they have children? And they missed the greatest celebration of their daughter's life, to celebrate with them in marriage, in a wedding, and they weren't there. Can you imagine what repercussions this is going to take, this is going to follow in the lives of these people. Now, does God separate like this? No. He joins together. But this has got to stop. This type of attitude has got to stop because it's wrong. It's not right. It's wrong. And they need to understand, people need to understand the impact it's going to have with these people who are trying to separate. Mormons are trying to separate from maybe their children who are not Mormon and maybe go a different direction. I'm very sad over this. I wanted to share this with you because this is reality. I see this many times. Mormonism has got to stop with this insane idea that they are the only elect, and if their children are not getting married in the temple, then I don't want to be a part of it. I have friends who have left the LDS church and their parents are in so much pain and their wives are so much pain because they did this, but they're with Christ, you know, they're with Jesus, they love the Lord. But in their minds, they feel like that's wrong. Why? Because in their scriptures, they say that anything outside in the Book of Mormon, it says that, you know, there's only two churches. It's the church of God, which is theirs, and anything else outside of their church is the great and abominable church. So we're all following Satan, right? That's what they think. And so I just want to give that insight to you. If you know any Mormons, or if you're Mormons watching this, please hear us out. Let us share this pain that's going through these people's lives and the impact it's going to be. And if you're Mormon, I pray that you'll change. You'll be the new generation of thought. That you'll say, no, this is wrong. We're not going to do this, because the consequences are going to be horrendous in the lives of the daughter and their parents. And it's going to really affect their grandchildren and their children and everything else. So it's wrong. It's wrong. We got to love, we got to accept, we got to help each other to be more joined with our faith rather than separate. I hope this helped you out a little bit to make you understand why there's so much pain. It's got to stop. We declare it's Jesus and Jesus and Jesus and Jesus alone. And if we have Jesus, then you should be happy if you're Mormons. It's not about if we have Jesus, then that's a bad thing. You know, we are born again Christians. We are believers of the truth of Jesus, who is the truth, the life, and the way for us. We proclaim him, we love him, we worship him, we are obedient to him. We just want to let you know that just because you think otherwise doesn't mean that it's true. Okay? Hope this helped you out today. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. But some insight that I wanted to share with you. God bless. Bye-bye.